Has to be able to come in from doing a training run and be warm in all the rooms.
Now, it may not be that it made him an interesting person. Indeed, to Frank the Tortoise voice, it was quite the reverse. It was the complete flatness of his inflection that attracted us to him.
I'm a bit of a worrier.
Nick Park is the Oscar-winning animator behind the campaign.
I think the job of the animator is to somehow make the voice and the physical character become one and the same thing, like the voice is actually coming out of the character.
The voices of the creatures sound real because they are recordings of spontaneous speech, but just how natural are they?
Has to be able to go into a home from doing a training run. This should be for the front, really, shouldn't it?
Out of 2 hours, we've got to somehow condense it into 30 seconds, basically. It's a really hard job because most sentences that people say are over 30 seconds, and no one sentence is right.
Oh, if you're going to replace your existing heating system, you've got to go for something that's less gassy, cleaner, easier to use.
Easy to use.
More economical.
I like that.
More obtrusive.
Useful phrases.
Although the final soundtrack seems continuous, there can be as many as 20 edits in a 30-second commercial.
We often start off with a sentence that's got lots of baggage, lots of extra bits attached to it, and what we're trying to get down to is the essential part of the sentence that we need, because we have to be streamlined and fit into our 30-second bit.
Oh, if you're going to replace your existing heating, you've got to go for something that's economical, worry-free. I'm a bit of a worrier.
So we're always looking for catchphrases, but at the same time, we're looking for something that isn't looking or sounding like it's been written for a commercial. It's got to sound very natural. So at the same time, we haven't to over-edit so that we lose that kind of natural character that comes across.
And it needs to be easily controllable as well, because I don't have much time.
We did one for ceramic hobs where the first thing she said was, "Ceramic hob, oh yeah, I've got a ceramic hob." And she soared off like Pavarotti on this thing. And it was just what she said. So that had to stay in. You could never have scripted that.
Oh, electric hobs, yeah.
Yes, they are easy to clean. They just wipe
over, and it looks like new.
It looks good. And
not like some of these other things, you know, that are just there to, you know, oh, this looks pretty in my kitchen. You know, it's there to do its job, and it does it.
Does it well.
And it does it efficiently,
It does it
doesn't
well,
it, Andrew?
that's right.
Yes, Dad.
The creature comfort advertisements make a very cunning use of the genre of advertisement because they are simultaneously very innovative and very traditional. They're innovative because they appear to be something else. You think that you're watching an animation. But they also make use of one of the most traditional formats in advertising, the use of the Vox Pops.
We asked housewives to try it, to see if they thought it now washed whiter than any other product they'd ever used. Here's what Mrs. Neal had to say.
Those were linked with a particular kind of documentary style. They only could exist in a social structure where there was quite a patronising relation between the ad as a production and the person speaking in it.
Your husband shares it.
Yes.
What does he do?
He's a lorry driver, you know, amps all the vegetables, which is mud, grease, all sorts I get, so... And I get about 4 or 5 of these a week.
Mrs. Neal's own words.
You can argue things have changed socially to a degree where it wouldn't be easy to have such a clearly patronising tone.
Well, the trouble is, when you've got kids, and they get fashion conscious, don't they?
Oh, they are.
And they says, can I have my jeans, or can I have this, that and the other? And they don't want it tomorrow, they want it now.
By not having real people, by having these sort of adorable cartoon animals, you can keep that tone. It doesn't appear as quite so patronising, because although the voice implies real people, the image completely takes that away.
I were no more than knee-high to a grasshopper when I went to seek my fortune. I packed up my conkers and my Obi sandwich.
Bernard Shaw wrote in 1912 that as soon as an Englishman opens his mouth, he makes another Englishman despise him.
Am I in London yet? I asked.
Everyone who speaks English has some kind of accent, so when advertisers choose a voice, this becomes part of the message.
Come back with me, and we'll get your ma to make up a suitcase full.
There's a history of using regional speech in advertisements, Devonshire accents to sell butter and northern accents to sell beer. But that's fairly gross stereotyping, and I don't think that's what's going on here.
Oh, it's essential now. It was a luxury before we got it, but it's definitely an essential now.
There's a lot of research that shows that different English accents have got different connotations. RP speakers, BBC English if you like, tend to be associated with intelligence and competence. But regional accents have also got positive features. They tend to be associated with warmth and sincerity and trustworthiness.
I used to do the washing up before we had a dishwasher, and it took an hour and a half. It was hellish.
As soon as you choose the voice, you've located the product and you've located the client in a certain place and time and a certain social group. A voice is a very specific thing.
So we spend our time arguing about other issues.
Looking for voices, we decided consciously to avoid the southeast. Just get rid of the southeast. The people down here are too bland, too boring, and they've got more money than sense, so they buy all kinds of stupid things like bottled water and stuff like that they've been sold by con men and advertising agencies. So no one wants to know their opinion. The opinion you don't hear is the real people out there who are everyone else that you ever see in the street.
And there's another satisfied customer eating the dust. Sir. Captain. What can I do for you?
The distinctive combination of natural sound with animation had its origins in films like Down and Out. Made at the Aardman Studios in the 70s, it was based on recordings at a Salvation Army hostel.
It was actually done by attaching a microphone to the guy behind the desk, and he just picked up everyone that came in during the day. And so we had no conceivable control over what was said. And by good luck, a very lively, albeit incoherent, conversation happened.
30 years. Yeah. What I'd advise you to do is go over there now.
I've been able to get out a bed in this house.
What I'd be advised...
And I've only just come out of Broadway baths.
Broadway baths?
And I goes
How
out
long have you been in there then?
You've got animation, which is the most contrived thing you can do, but then you've got this kind of realistic, spontaneous, documentary-sounding voice track, which is kind of the opposite. And I think it's this juxtaposition of these two very familiar things that have never been seen together before.
Once caught on tape, 30 seconds of speech is at least 3 weeks' work for the animator. It can take several days to animate even a short sentence, with 25 separate moves every second.
Into the canteen and give them your money, they'd serve you a meal.
Once they've agreed on a soundtrack, each word needs to be broken down phonetically.
How much the labour tax?
The next stage is to chart the sound frame by frame using what's called a dope sheet. The dope sheet and the edited sound are the raw material which the animator has to sculpt into a new kind of life, a convincing character and a convincing speaker.
It's nice to know that you can go home and you'll be a bit warmer. And, you know, it's very agreeable to be, you know, heated up.
It's hard to explain why any individual element of my characters are the way they are. For example, the wide beaks, which people notice a lot. In order to move his beak authentically, I had to make lots of different shapes, and you can see that this one comes off like this. And for each frame of film, I have to replace the beak, and it looks rather strange without the beak. But these are the set of beaks we have made for Pablo character. They're obviously more exaggerated than real people's mouths. They're obviously a lot wider. They're moving in much more exaggerated fashion. But in a way, I don't really copy reality. I don't find that important. I think you can observe reality and then stylize it in order to actually emphasize reality more.
An athlete like me has to be able to come in from doing a training run and be warm in all the rooms. Or because me has to be able to come in from doing a training run and be warm in all the rooms.
Okay, he's just saying the at the moment, and I'm just gonna, my dope sheet tells me that the word the lasts roughly 3 or 4 frames. He's just done the main kind of the sound, and then just hear the word the kind of on the word the kind of lasts another frame or two. So I'm just going to do that one just by raising Frank's head up to make his mouth wider.
I started out doing lip sync, and I believed that the way to do it was to copy what the human mouth did as exactly as possible. And later I saw what Nick was doing, which is much more exaggerated and ultimately more believable. It goes a lot further, and it's done in bolder strokes, and that works, I think.
Once you've got the mouth moving and it's good lip sync, the next thing then is to work on the actual gestures of the arms and the face, and in fact the whole body. And you know, because I think you speak with your whole body, not just the mouth. He's just looking around the room as well, so I get me kind of paper clip here, stick it in the eyes, just tweak them a bit as he looks over to his left. And his whole body's moving. He's about to kind of look at the whole room. So I'll take a frame of that.
An athlete like me has to be able to come in from doing a training run and be warm in all the rooms.
I tend to work spontaneously. I don't really plan very much. I think it's partly because of the nature of these adverts, because it's somebody just kind of rambling on for 30 or 40 seconds. I think it's okay if it has this kind of spontaneous, unplanned feel about it, because that's what an interview is. You're just kind of thinking as you're talking.
There's lots of differences between scripted and unscripted speech. And one of the most obvious differences is the incidence of hesitation and false starts.
It's like the last piece of the jigsaw. It is. It's very comfortable, affordable, comfortably affordable.
When you are speaking, you need to think ahead, to process, to know what you're going to say next. So things like sort of, like, you know, give you the time that you need to think.
Well, they should be sort of fairly modern in design, and they've got to be easily turn off and onable.
Turn on and offable, it's excellent, isn't it? What the speaker's doing here is very creative. He's really stretching the rules of English. Now, what you have in English is a core of adjectives that are formed by adding able to a verb stem. And most of us play around with that rule. We can say things like doable, that's doable, or meetable, that deadline is meetable. But what the speaker's doing here is stretching the rules of English to their absolute limit. And he's not adding the able to a verb stem, he's adding it to a preposition. And by doing that, you're creating something which attracts attention. It's very memorable.
Oh, yeah, we've just got a new electric cooker.
Oh, yes, ceramic hob.
Ceramic
Hob, yeah, we got that. Well, you just
very efficient.
Another important difference between scripted and unscripted speech is overlap, where you've got more than one person speaking at the same time.
I mean, and
it is very
instantly
quick.
controllable.
Yeah, that's a good word, instantly. Yeah.
Instantly controllable.
It is really.
The fact that you've got overlapping speech makes it feel very real. If you think about the kind of thing that you hear on TV dramas, for instance, you just don't get that kind of overlap. It makes it very authentic.
Spontaneous, that's what we like.
Yeah, I'm all muddy and scampering around, and Mum goes, "Get in that shower!" So I goes, "Oh yeah, shower." Meow, straight upstairs and into the shower.
Yeah, well, what I like about it, especially in summer, is that it's not that often to wear it.
You don't have to put the heating on. Brilliant. What we can do with technology today.
We do so much of this, you know, and in the film where she goes like this, I could sorry, to shut him up. I often feel like, you know, we should be quiet, you know, and he always has to have the last say anyway, which he did have in the film. It's quick and you save money. You don't have to put the heating on.
Brilliant. What we can do with technology today.
For all your creature comforts, shower electric.
The slogan at first seems to do nothing more than just wrap up the ad and indicate that it's finished. But I think when we come to look at this in more detail, we find as we do with a lot of advertising slogans, that there is an extremely compressed and powerful and carefully worked use of language.
For all your creature comforts, heat electric.
Cinema designers have understood for years that the title sequence tells you as much about the movie. And what we have is a title sequence at the end. If you remember the old days, the westerns, where the titles used to burn away, and then there were the Indians on the hill. In a sense, that's what we're doing here. We're summing up rather than introducing.
For all your creature comforts.
And the words there are a bit odd. For all your creature comforts, heat electric is an odd sentence, which would not have got me through the GCSEs.
The grammar of this slogan is odd. At the end, you have an adjective, electric, where you would normally expect to find either an adverb, electrically, or a prepositional phrase with an electric cooker. So this foregrounds this phrase, and it brings emphasis to it in the same way that the swirling of the letters from the appliance brings emphasis to it as well.
Well, it used to be that you had to make the words and the pictures match. As a word was said, it came on the screen.
Stop at the bird's eye shop, at the bird's eye, stop at the bird's eye shop.
And there are various people who've written things, there are rules, you've got to do this. Nowadays, it doesn't matter.
For all your creature comforts, dishwash electric.
It's a noticeable feature of many advertising slogans that they use some of the traditional devices of English poetry. This one is no exception. It has a regular rhythm. It is iambic in rhythm. That is to say, it's alternating unstressed and stressed syllables. For all your creature comforts, cook electric.
For all your creature comforts, cook electric.
It's just like the ploughman homeward plods his weary way and leaves the world to darkness and to me. There's also alliteration, which is a very traditional poetic device. Creature comforts, cook. And there's consonance in the last two words. Cook electric.
And it goes bing when it's finished.
For all your creature comforts, cook electric.
Some people think of the voice at the end of ads as the voice of God, this huge omnipotent authority who's going to bring you the final word. So we didn't use God because he was booked. We used Johnny Morris.
Hello. Isn't it rotten when you can't think of anything to do?
A familiar voice to some people, and to those who are not familiar with him, he sounds like someone out of the BBC 6 o'clock programmes in the black and white days, which was a much nicer world than the world we're in now, and a much more reassuring world.
Oh, yes. I'm a great fan of this dishwasher, I definitely am.
My dad was initially against it. Real men don't have dishwashers.
So what is it about the way the campaign uses language that accounts for its appeal?
What the advertisers are doing is taking voices from actual recordings and making them into something else. It's a kind of rhetorical harnessing, the putting of the words into a frame.
Whenever anything comes out of the dishwasher, it's always twice as clean as it could get. That was disastrous.
Yes, but it's very indicative of our ability to just be creative with language and to entertain people that we're talking to and to entertain ourselves at the same time.
I have a theory as to why it works. My theory is when you animate something, even the non-film literate audience knows or senses that you made everything happen, that nothing happened by chance, that it was all, crafted down to the last flicker of the eyebrow. And so as a result, I believe, they watch that much more intently.
Brilliant. What we can do with technology today.
We take ordinary speech, and by making sure that everyone's focusing on every syllable, you kind of elevate it. You lift it, from being commonplace to being something incredibly special.
Bob's your uncle. It's done. Lovely. No moaning, anything to keep him quiet.
Oh, I know.